Hello and welcome to Clearview News. We are reaching you live from Nigeria's capital city, Abuja. In the news, Nigerians welcome Supreme Court judgment sacking all elected candidates of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC in the 2019 general elections in Zamfara State, saying it's a lesson for politicians engaged in impunity and unconstitutionality. 15 Nigerian banks indicted for non-remittance of 1.5 billion naira stamp duties. And as Brexit controversy rages on with no deal in sight, Prime Minister Theresa May resigns, taking Britain back to the drawing board on EU membership. I am Nten Ekpan with details of these and many more. The Supreme Court has declared that the All Progressives Congress, the APC, had no candidates in the 2019 general elections in Zamfara State. The five-member panel of justices in a unanimous judgment on Friday held that the party in the state failed to conduct primaries in accordance with the party rules. In the lead judgment by Justice Paula Damu Ganiji, the Apex Court held that all votes cast for the APC were wasted and declared that all political parties with the second highest votes in the elections and the required spread are elected to the various elections. The panel also awarded a cost of 10 million against APC in favor of the Kabiru Marafa faction of the APC and other respondents in the appeal. The justices sounded a note of warning to politicians against destroying the country's democracy. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the 2019 presidential election, Atiku Abubakar, has commended the Supreme Court over its judgment against the All Progressives Congress APC in Zamfara State, northern Nigeria. In a statement issued by Paul Ibe, his media aide, the former vice president said nothing is as pleasing to the ears of believers as justice being served in the holy month of Ramadan. Abubakar commended the Supreme Court justices for putting aside the interest of the powerful and upholding the interest of Nigeria and Nigerians. Meanwhile, the new Zamfara governor-elect Bello Matawalle of the People's Democratic Party has commended the judiciary for standing up to the truth in the discharge of its responsibilities. Matawalle became the new governor-elect on Friday, being the candidate with the second highest number of votes from the last governorship election in the state. Now, this followed the five-member panel decision of the Supreme Court, which nullified the All Progressives Congress victory over the party's failure to conduct primaries as contained in its constitution. In a statement signed by one of his aides, Omar Mohammed, Matawalle said the judgment is a testimony that the judiciary has remained fair in the discharge of its responsibilities. He congratulated the people of Zamfara State, especially PDP supporters, for remaining peaceful and orderly throughout the time they sought redress in the courts. Meanwhile, supporters of the PDP, as well as those of other political parties in the state, have taken to the streets in jubilation over the Supreme Court announcement. Governor of Bayelsa State and chairman of the People's Democratic Party PDP Governors Forum, Honorable Seriake Dixon, has congratulated the former federal lawmaker Dr. Bello Mohammed Matawalle on his return as the governor-elect for Zamfara State and the victory of other PDP candidates in the state by the Supreme Court. Dixon also congratulated the leaders of the party and its teeming supporters in Zamfara for their dedication, commitment and resilience, which culminated in the party's victory at the polls in Zamfara. The Bayelsa governor, who is also chairman of the South-South Governors Forum, thanked the judiciary for standing up to the expectations of all well-meaning Nigerians as an impartial arbiter of justice. He said that it was rather reassuring and commendable for the judiciary to display such a high level of courage and professionalism, especially given the unusual times. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on Friday held a meeting over the Supreme Court judgment on the general elections held in Zamfara State. In a statement signed by Festus Okoye, INEC's National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education, the electoral body met to determine the next course of action following the ruling. And part of the statement said, following the Supreme Court's judgment delivered on the 24th of May 2019 on the governorship national and state assembly elections held in Zamfara State, INEC held an emergency meeting to consider the court's decision. The statement revealed that the meeting would continue on Saturday and an outcome will be revealed on Monday. And apart from leading politicians, not a few Nigerians describe the Supreme Court judgment on the Zamfara APC crisis as a watershed. Clearview TV's Joy Esekweyi, who was on the streets of Abuja after the judgment, brings us more reactions.
Well, Nigeria is moving forward. It's good for our democracy because where the rule of law stands. Well, I give that credit to the president himself because if the head is not agreeing to the verdict at all, it will not stand. So I'm very, very happy with what is happening in Nigeria. We are developing, we are progressing, and we are going somewhere. This is a very, very good development for this nation. And you know, the what they call it, judiciary is the hope of the common man. And so there's hope for everybody, whether you are rich, young, small or big.
Internal democracy. All the political parties in Nigeria, they don't have internal democracy. The party leaders put people that they want to take the power, and they always have problems, especially during their primaries. I think this will be a lesson to all the political parties that they all have to plan and have their candidates well selected.
I think that's the position of law as it stands, and you cannot change it. The Supreme Court remains the apex court in the country, so their decision is authority and cannot be reversed. And I think what they did is the right thing, because there is a stipulated time for primaries, and I think APC were unable to meet up to the particular time.
There's no any implication because Zamfara people, it is the thing that they are waiting for. Zamfara people are already waiting for this time because it is the only solution. It is the only alternative for Zamfara people. Inshallah, Zamfara people will see another good governance for this time around because it's already for PDP. It is the day that we stay waiting for. And this Buhari administration is showing us it's going accordingly. It's beaten bit by bit. And we are happy. We are praying for this government.
I think, to my own view, the Supreme Court did the right thing because the Zamfara APC, they are not organized, even at the first place. They decide to keep tossing of power. The governor want to control the party actually, and the national body want to have a say in the party, in the state. So at the end of the day, they become a jack of all trades, master of none. APC did not stand to make an atmosphere conducive for themselves in Zamfara, while PDP used their advantage. That become an opportunity to BDP to utilize it. So after everything, PDP has the right to become, the Supreme Court had the right to declare PDP winner.
Welcome back, and joining me now to discuss the outcome or the ruling of the Supreme Court on the election in Zamfara State. I have the co-convener, Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room, Barrister Esther Ozoma. Welcome to the news.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, a lot of Nigerians have said it's a watershed judgment. Leading figures politically and all over the nations have been commenting on it. Let's start from you. What do you make of this decision by the Supreme Court on the elections in Zamfara State?
Certainly it's unprecedented. Nothing like this has ever happened before, in our jurisprudence, particularly for a ruling party, to lose all the seats in a whole state. It has never happened before. But it does throw a light on this INEC because INEC just stamped its feet and said, listen, you did not conduct primaries. As such, you will not contest elections. INEC was, said it consistently over time, and then told them, feel free to go to court, let the court decide. At some point, we're hearing discordant tones from the courts, but INEC was consistent in the position it held, in the position, it publicized. Say, listen, you did not do the right thing. You cannot come and be on this ballot. You do not qualify. And then today, the Supreme Court has validated the position of INEC that persons who do not conduct primaries, because you know, under the Electoral Act, once primaries are being conducted, INEC is a party to the extent that it comes to observe proceedings. To what extent did that party even, you know, abide by its own internal regulations and rules? So INEC said, listen, primaries were not held at all, so we can't even, you can't proceed. Okay, so it's kudos for this INEC. So in the annals of history, then it shall be said of the Professor Mahmood of Goodluck INEC that it was in his time that a ruling party who did not comply with the rules, you know, the court has validated him. So
yeah, but INEC just came out with a release and said that they're going to be having a meeting probably by Saturday to discuss, you know, issues around the outcome of this judgment. Having said earlier that you did not comply to the rules and all of that, do they need to discuss anything after the Supreme Court has ruled?
Of course, they need to discuss so many things. There are issues from this. You see, the Supreme Court, they speak to us in esoteric language. INEC, an institution, a responsible institution like INEC, cannot depend on newspaper publications to actually decipher the prophecies of the court. Number one, they must have the enrolled order. Number two, they must have that judgment. All right? What the best that the news gave us is finally this is what the court said. But the gist of it, the tripod on which that judgment stood, INEC must go through that judgment line by line and understand exactly what the court meant when they said that APC votes, over 500,000 APC votes, were wasted votes. What does it mean? What is the implication? So who is now the second runner-up? Before they can arrive at all this, remember there were forms, electoral result forms that were filled, the EC8 series. Of course, after reading the judgment, they will now interpret that judgment based on the materials they have. Forensic analysis. Remember, there's a constitutional requirement for declaration of a governor.
Yeah.
That's right. So that constitutional requirement must be met. Okay, so INEC is going to look at all their documents, look at the judgment, and then come out, make a declaration.
Okay, so are we seeing a situation where, if according to electoral law, the supposedly governor-elect right now, because people are already announcing the Bello of the PDP as, or addressing him as governor-elect, assuming he doesn't meet the requirement of 1/3 or 2/3 majority in all of this, the local government, are we seeing a situation where INEC may be constrained to conduct another election to say, okay, let's, so that we know that the law is being, you know, adhered to?
I'll not go into that hypothetical voyage. I will not venture, you know. But the law is very clear. There are 14 local governments. And whoever must, Constitution says that for there to be a winner, you must first of all have a simple majority and 2/3 of at least a quarter of the votes cast.
In all of the local
Yes,
governments.
a quarter of the votes cast in 2/3 of the local governments. So this is the crucible, you know, that whoever will be the governor of Zamfara State, that person must cross this hurdle. Okay. So those are facts that will emerge by strict documents, because right now voting is closed. Agents already have the result sheets, so maybe they are doing their calculation, but INEC will also look at these issues critically before they now make a declaration.
Yeah, one of the things people talk about our politics is about impunity and people not following laid down rules.
Yes.
What do you think this judgment will send to, you know, to the political players in Nigeria?
The arrogance of the political class. Finally, we have an institution that has come out clearly to say, listen, we cannot tolerate this arrogance. You see, at some point, you know, the ruling party was accusing INEC. All right? So if we have an institution, look at what is happening in Imo State, for instance, okay? And then that arrogance, the impunity, people should not benefit from lawlessness. You know, because the political class, politicians, they have a tendency to say, listen, I am the winner, go to court. All right? People should not benefit when they brazenly defecate and generally model our laws. Who will make you a winner? Because you find out that the political classes, there's no honor. There's no shame. I will win at all costs. But thank God that we have an institution that is putting its feet down and saying that, listen, when you are brazen or when you do not obey the laws, particularly your own, we will not raise your hand. It's you know, it's sending the right message.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No, the law is the final arbiter, and of course is the common hope of the common man out there. That's where we lay our hope on. And now that it's a ruling party, that people who
Fantastic.
ordinarily say
Yes,
that
they walk over it.
No, they could just walk over it. But here we are seeing not just one candidate, two candidates, but an entire
Wow.
state losing. What does it tell us about our laws in Nigeria, and what hope do you think the common politician we have?
One thing is very clear. Well, we are a country of laws. It depends on who is manning the institution. That is what one clear message. Who is manning the institution? All right. For instance, it took a Jega, you know, to bring Jagamasin. All right. Now he's taking a Professor Mahmood-led INEC to say, listen, yes, you might be the ruling party, but we cannot sanction impunity. We will not validate your excesses. All right. So it does appear that it is about who is manning the institution, which is very good. This decision will further strengthen our political muscles. It will further vulcanize the tires, our political tires. Politicians will now begin to know that the law will eventually catch up with you. You know, the laws will not work if we don't work it. So we are seeing somebody who is prepared to work the laws. Again, you know, before now, you find out that people will be in court over, you know, pre-election matters and a tenure will finish. But the amazing constitutional amendments made has set very strict, you know, time limits, you know, to the challenge of pre-election matters. Within 14 days, you must file. The court of first instance must give his judgment within 180 days. The appeal court within 60 days. That is fantastic. So that's the era of, oh, let them, I will be in court until my tenure is finished. That is over. So I tell you once again, for a ruling party to lose their whole seats in a general election from Guba down, you know, it takes a man with the rod, an iron rod in his back.
What message would you have to political players as a fallout of this judgment right now?
Well, one thing is clear. The judiciary is alive to its responsibilities. I'm sure that someone thought that no, they won't do this to a ruling party, and it has been done. So let the political gladiators, let them take, a word is enough for a wise. It is not business as usual. So never say never. When you make rules for your party, the least you can do is to abide by your own eternal democracy. The processes, the standards you have set for yourself, the least you can do is to abide by it. That's all the Supreme Court is saying. And I salute the justices of the Supreme Court. Personally, my faith, again, is, you know, reinforced. And of course, I salute INEC, you know, for maintaining this strong stand. From day one, they said, no, you did not comply. And then I wish Nigeria the best.
Barrister Esther Uzoma, co-convener at Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Moving ahead now, Nigeria is joining the rest of the world to mark this year's African Liberation Day, which comes up on Saturday, May 25. And to commemorate the day, Action Aid Nigeria, in partnership with the Africa Rising Activista Nigeria, organized a conference with the aim of raising public awareness on the implementation of the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance. Clearview TV's Uju Onyemechalo has that report.
African Liberation Day is commemorated annually on 25th May to celebrate the determination of the African people in their fight for freedom from foreign domination and exploitation. Speaking at the event, the country director Action Aid Nigeria (NAOB) harped on the need for Africans to reclaim their civic space in the world, change their story, and change the perception of Africa.
We are celebrating a day of freedom, a day of liberation, but we need to connect it to our national unity. We are still struggling as a people to liberate ourselves from even the people, from dictators within our environment. And that is the struggle today. And that is the call that culminated into the African Charter.
The policy officer, Action Aid Nigeria, Aromi Agenyi, encouraged citizens, especially those in the media, to lend their voices to the conversation on the implementation of the African Charter on Democracy, Election and Governance.
We are using this opportunity to say that citizens, young persons, women, those especially in the media, should collaborate, to come together and advance the conversations around the implementation of the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance. So what do we do to ensure this instrument is implemented in Nigeria? We need to talk about it. We need to talk about it on the social media. We need to talk about it on every platform that we have.
This year marks the 56th African Liberation Day since 1963, when representatives of 32 independent African states met in Ethiopia and formed the Organization of African Unity. Uju Onyemechalo reporting for Clearview Television.
We'll take a short break. We'll be back with more news. Please stay with us.
This is Ibrahim calling from Niger State, Working Power.
Oh, this is Anita from Benin.
My name is John, calling from Niger.
My name is Ahmed, I'm calling from Kogi State.
This is Clearview TV, and this is our spread through free-to-air via Nikonsat and online.
Yes, this is calling you from Adamawa State.
Adamala Ahmad Ibrahim.
Mala Ahmad Ibrahim de Gochaja kenan.
Daga Yobe.
I'm calling from Benue. My name is Chukwemeka. I'm calling from Niger State.
You can imagine how far your advertisements, social announcements, official notices, and jingles will go if you patronize us. It's time to take your messages far at the cheapest rate.
The National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, says it will henceforth commence full implementation of allocation of 10% airtime for children programming by broadcast stations in the country. NBC zonal officer in the Federal Capital Territory, Franca Ayeton, stated these are the 2019 annual Young Broadcasters Awards held in Abuja, the Nigerian capital. Our correspondent Cecilia Okoli has the details.
The awards, a brainchild of Silverbird TV, are aimed at encouraging and appreciating the creativity of children, their vocabulary skills and self-confidence, particularly those hoping to make a career in broadcasting. Speaking at the event, the head of the station, Silverbird, Omoloya Oladimeji, says the essence of the awards is to appreciate and encourage young broadcasters with the zeal and desire to make a career in broadcasting.
We believe that it shouldn't just be everybody barging into the profession. They have to train right from the beginning. And we're saying we don't want to wait till they get to the university to study mass communication. They should be able to start right from the senior secondary school.
She speaks further on how the progress of upcoming young broadcasters will be monitored in their respective schools.
We go to schools during their co-curricular hour. You know, they have press clubs. So we go there to train. We've identified some people in the media who are willing to mentor.
For the zonal officer of the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, Franca Ayetan, the commission is ready to enforce its 10% allocation of airtime by broadcast stations to children programming as a way of showing its full support for the young broadcasters.
NBC is ready to enforce the 10% provisions of the code on children's programming. Stations are shying away from it, and that's why I'm happy today that a lot of the stations' representatives, particularly the GMs, are present at this Nigeria Young Broadcasters Forum.
Also speaking, the DEX officer, Secondary Education, FCT Education Board, Ethan Noye, assured that the board will ensure that the young professionals are brought up in the right way through providing them with the best educational background.
We are all around And so our plans are to really bring them up the right way, give them a good background, a good foundation. That is our responsibility, and that's what we've always done. That's why we're partnering with Louisiana Media to make sure that these young adults are given the best.
The Nigerians Young Broadcasters Awards attracted students from various secondary schools in Abuja City, parents as well as top dignitaries. The event featured performance from children expressing themselves in creative ways through dancing, comedy, debates, radio presentations, public speaking, as well as motivational talks. Cecilia Okoli reporting for Clearview Television.
Nigeria Police Council on Thursday confirmed the appointment of Mohammed Adamu as the Substantive Inspector General of Police, IGP. His confirmation followed the meeting of the council held at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Correspondent Anita Patrick has more.
Adamu has been in acting capacity since January 15th when he was appointed to replace the former Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris. He was presented to the State House correspondents at a press briefing by the newly elected chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State.
The council looked at the record of the acting Inspector General of Police, who had been in the saddle now since the 15th of January 2019. And a cross-section of members of council were very clear that given his passion, his commitment, his professionalism, and his extensive experience locally and internationally, his interim appointment as acting Inspector General of Police was approved and confirmed a permanent appointment by the Police Council in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
We met as Nigerian Police Council, chaired by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. There was opportunity for every member of council to speak on whether or not the acting IG, Mr. Adamu, be confirmed or not. The interesting part of it all is that for everybody that spoke, he spoke eloquently as a clear classical testimony of the wonderful and outstanding qualities of our acting Inspector General of Police.
The Inspector General of Police speaks on the challenges before the police and his strategies to address them.
What it means for us is that we've been given a tough task to make sure that we make the country, we provide security within the country and make the country crime-free, which means we have to redouble our efforts. Whatever strategy we put in place, we have to look at it and re-strategize day in, day out to make sure that the insecurity in the country is brought down to the barest minimum.
Born on 17th September 1961, Mohammed Adamu, who hails from Lafia in Nasarawa State, enlisted into the Nigerian Police Force in 1986 after graduating from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, with a bachelor's degree honors in geography in 1983. He also holds a master's degree in international criminal justice systems, obtained in 2010 at the University of Portsmouth, England. In 2018, Adamu was awarded a honorary Doctor of Philosophy degree in international relations by Godfrey Okoye University, Enugu, in recognition of his international professional exposure. He joined the forces as a cadet assistant superintendent of police, worked as a divisional crime officer and administrative officer at the Ngbede Police Station, Ngbede, Imo State. OC General Investigation, Nigerian Police Zone 6 Headquarters, Calabar, and as a detective at the Force Criminal Intelligence and Investigation Department, Alagbon Close, Ikoyi, Lagos. Adamu served as the Director of Peacekeeping and Training Force Headquarters, Abuja, and was later deployed as the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of administration in Ekiti State Command, Head State Criminal Investigation Department, Kaduna State Police Command. He was later deployed as a Commissioner of Police, Enugu State Police Command between 2013 to 2015, and the Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 5 Police Headquarters, Benin City, between 2016 to 2017. He was seconded from the Nigerian police to the Interpol General Secretariat, Leon France, as a specialized officer on economic and financial crimes in the Economic and Financial Crimes Sub-Directorate. Anita Patrick, reporting for Clearview Television.
The House of Representatives has indicted 15 banks over non-remittances of over 1.5 billion naira stamp duties. 4 banks are also to be investigated over non-compliance with the committee's invitation. This was contained in a report submitted by an ad hoc committee saddled with the responsibility of investigating the non-remittance of trillions of naira of stamp duties to the Federation account. In the report adopted at plenary on Thursday, the committee, after its investigation, recommended that banks that disregarded its invitation to a public hearing should be investigated, while those that had cases of delayed remittances should be penalized. The committee also recommended that, in view of the apparent lack of transparency on the part of most of the financial institutions, the Central Bank of Nigeria should strengthen its supervisory activities to ensure that financial institutions report and remit all government revenue correctly and promptly. Oyo State Governor Abiola Ajimobi has thanked President Buhari for the support given to states, particularly during the period of scarcity of funds to execute projects, pay salaries, as well as meet socio-economic developmental demands. Ajimobi stated this at a farewell meeting with Buhari at the State House, Abuja. The outgoing governor said Buhari was on hand to assist the governors with social infrastructure by extending the welfare net to states, noting that such assistance made governance easier for them.
I think first and foremost, I'm leaving a legacy of appreciation. Appreciation to the Almighty God for giving me the opportunity to serve our people. To me, serving the people is godliness. Godliness is service to humanity. So I'm leaving that legacy of appreciation to the Almighty God for giving me the opportunity to serve. 2, I'm leaving a legacy of appreciation to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, for the support he has given me, that he has given all the states, that he has given all Nigerians, particularly during the period of scarcity of fund to execute our projects, to pay salaries, to meet the socio-economic development demands of our people. And he was on hand to help all of us. And he started releasing funds to all the states. And by today that I'm talking, most of the states, including Oyo State, is not owing any salaries.
He thanked God for giving him the opportunity to serve and the people of the state for allowing him to be the first governor to do 2 terms of 8 years. Ajimobi said he is leaving a legacy of peace and security in Oyo. At the time, the state, he said, was not very peaceful, just like he is living it now. Members of the civil society organization, or members of a civil society organization, on Thursday staged a peaceful protest at the Edo State House of Assembly in Benin City. The aggrieved CSOs faulted lawmakers for passing a bill on electricity theft, which, according to them, is at the instance of the Benin Electricity Distribution Company, BEDC. According to reports, while at the gates of the assembly, the protesters pelted rotten tomatoes and mangoes before moving to the government house in the state capital. A spokesperson for the group, Ago Omobude, told reporters that the bill itself would not have been a problem if only the lawmakers had passed a bill against estimated billing by BEDC to protect consumers. We'll now take a break. We'll be back after this timeout. Stay with us.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. Theresa May on the foreign scene has said she will quit as Conservative leader on June 7, paving the way for a contest to decide a new prime minister. In an emotional statement in Downing Street, she said she had done her best to honor the 2016 EU referendum result. It will remain a matter of deep regret that she had been unable to deliver Brexit, she added. Mrs. May said she will continue to serve as prime minister while a Conservative leadership contest takes place. She will step down as Tory leader on 7 June, and a leadership contest is due to begin the following week. The Prime Minister has faced a backlash from her MPs against her latest Brexit plan, which included concessions aimed at attracting cross-party support. In a statement on Friday, she said that in order to deliver Brexit, her successor would have to build agreements in Parliament. Meanwhile, President Emmanuel Macron of France has urged swift clarification on Brexit after the resignation of UK Prime Minister Theresa May. He stressed the need to maintain the smooth functioning of the EU as the EU ruled out any change to Brexit policy. May is stepping down after failing to get her withdrawal agreement through Parliament 3 times. The French leader also joined EU leaders in paying tribute to May's courage. The European Commission made it clear it will work with Theresa May's successor, but that there will not be any changes to the withdrawal agreement. EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker followed Prime Minister May's announcement this morning without personal joy. The president appreciated working with Prime Minister May, describing her as a woman of courage whom he has great respect for. With the development, Conservative MPs will be throwing their hearts into the ring to become the next Tory leader and Prime Minister after Theresa May announced she would be stepping down on the 7th of June. Boris Johnson, Andre Litsom, Dominic Raab and Michael Dove have already been touted as front-runners. And to discuss issues around the resignation of Theresa May, which announcement came earlier today, I have with me a writer, journalist, development consultant, and international affairs analyst, Jide Ojo. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. After a long time, people had expected that Theresa May will will resign before now, but she's making the announcement now probably 3 times after Parliament rejected her withdrawal deal. What do you make of this?
Well, first I want to commend her for her strength of character. In the last 3 years have been very turbulent for her. Quite unfortunately, she didn't have it as good as Margaret Thatcher, who had the privilege of ruling Britain for about 11 years or thereabout. She had had a very tempestuous 3 years in the saddle. Of course, she emerged as Prime Minister against all odds. People were thinking it was Boris Johnson, who actually was one of the masterminds of the Brexit that was going to succeed David Cameron when he resigned in 2016. So having said that, you know, leaders don't quit. She held on, believing and hoping that she will be able to get the parliament to support a Brexit deal. Unfortunately, even to the extent of cutting deals with the opposition, Labour Party and the Liberal Dems, Democratic, she wasn't successful. And of course, that even worsened the situation for her, because it was a big gamble for you to reach out to the opposition thinking that they will back up your plan. And then they rebuffed it. People, your cabinet members have started to resign. So what else? And you know, parliamentary system is, once you have a vote of no confidence, serially as it were, you know, you are shown the exit door.
But
So,
probably because they gave her the vote of confidence. She won that confidence vote. Probably that was why she said, okay, let me still push it on and see if it come up.
yeah, but it was a big of a gamble. In as far as she wasn't, she was able to convince the EU for more time. They got an extension. I mean, Britain got an extension to October 31st. But you could see that Macron and a host of other EU leaders are impatient. They are not even contemplating any extension of time. And as it were now, many British, including the Labour movement in Britain, are pushing for early elections, early general elections. Some are believing that, okay, they could still have a hard Brexit. Some are of the opinion that maybe it will end in no deal. Some are
And that's a
touting
possibility.
that some are touting even another second referendum. It's a lot of cards on the table. But whatever it is, uneasy light is that wears the crown. So I really want to appreciate the strength of character of Theresa May. She has played her part. She has done her level best. It's just that she wasn't able to convince her colleagues
And now,
to support her.
is it the person thing? Maybe is it the person of Theresa May that is making it not to pull through, or because people are thinking that maybe when a neutral leader comes up, the Brexit deal might just, you know, scale through, as it were. Is it about the person of the Prime Minister that is making this not to work, as it were?
It could be person, it could also be systemic. It could also be fear of what it portends. You know, yes, UK may talk about, US has never been privileged to have a female US president. This is the second female prime minister in the history of UK. And much as I would not want to look at this from sexist point of view, we all know that our patriarchy nature sometimes above, whether you are talking of white, black, colored, negro, or whatever, patriarchy, sometimes they will say, oh, who is she to be telling me this is how we should do it? And she has brought different plans, all of them rejected. So I don't know whether a successor will be able to have a swift deal or no deal, because people are seeing the likelihood of a no deal being the or most likely option. But maybe the personality issue can come in if a better somebody who understands the issues, who can also work across party lines, because whatever is going to be done has to be done with by partisanship.
Absolutely.
So to get things through. So it's speculative to think a successor. We don't know who the successor will be. Will it be Boris Johnson?
Yeah, because four leading names, 13 names came up today. 13 candidates, people are being touted as possible successors. And among the 13, Boris Johnson's name came first.
Yeah, because he was the master.
Because he was the mastermind of the withdrawal.
In 2016.
Yes, in, let's say, the leave vote.
Yeah.
Now, do you see the person of Boris Johnson pulling this through easily, probably because he was one of the masterminds and the fact that he's highly respected, two-time mayor of London and all of that kind of stuff?
But people have also seen him as a very snobbish, boorish individual. But I mean, I really don't want to go into the persona of Boris Johnson. He hasn't gotten it. Maybe if he gets it, knowing full well that he was one of the leading actors that push for the leave of UK from EU, maybe he will understand the issues better and may be able to navigate his way. And given the fact that many of the EU leaders are also men, they can have men-to-men talk, and peradventure that will warrant, that may cut the ice.
Okay. Now, if you watch the video and the announcement of the Prime Minister, where she announced that she's going to be quitting as PM on 7th of June, in the ending part of the video, she became emotional and burst into tears. Would you say that was some sort of that was out of patriotism or frustration that after all of my trial, after all of my effort, I was rejected? Maybe it's some sort of admittance of failure on her part.
Well, she's even in the parliament, her voice has always been very quaky. She's been so frustrated. She never knew what else she could do to get things right. And she has shown her humanity, that she's human first and foremost, despite being a woman, despite being a leader. And if David Cameron could quit, then she should, she listed some of her gains, some of her successes.
Yes, she did.
That. And I think she's just allowing them, she's overwhelmed. She cast her mind back to all the efforts that she has made to get things to work and to be on the good part of history as somebody who did what many men could not do. But she was frustrated, and obviously she's not living in a blaze of glory come any time after June 7th, when she will leave. So I think that deep resentment of, I couldn't succeed with this target I gave myself, and that may have led to that emotional outburst. But I think she should hold her head high. She has done her level best. She came at a very, don't forget, she was a circumstantial leader. It wasn't as if she went through the ballot and she got victory. And of course, there was an early election and she won, and of course retained her prime ministership after the 2016 referendum. But she has played her own part. Quite unfortunately, I think history will be kind to her. Let's see what her successor will do different. Let's see whether the successor will be able to succeed where she had failed. But anybody who understood international politics will know that it's not a tea party. When you want to take an historical decision, it was an historical decision that was taken in 2016 to leave EU. This is an organization you co-founded. This is an organization you have taken responsibility. Now, a lot of issues that were never contemplated or whose full grasp was not in the minds of those who were voting at that time. They didn't realize that they have over 500,000 Britons who are working across many of the EU countries. And what the implication of leaving the EU would be. As at that time they thought, we are the one feeding EU. We are the one responsible for the larger budget of EU. So if we leave, we will have a better deal. But they have come to realize now that it may be it may be a Pyrrhic victory for them, having won the referendum. But now they are reluctant to want to follow through the consequences activated by Article 50 of the EU.
Absolutely. Jide, it's a good place to stop it here, maybe till another time. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Up next, Export with Tolu. Stay with us.
There it is. What a shot from Tiger. And the Jamaican juggernaut scores his first goal for a professional side. And
hello and welcome to the sporting segment of Clearview Television. I'm Ogutimeyin Tolulope Ogutimeyin. Nigeria's National Assembly has amended some of the laws that establish the Nigeria Football Federation as sole body meant to run football matter in Nigeria. Some of the notable changes are the repeal of Nigeria Football Association Act and establishment of the Nigeria Football Federation. The amendment also saw the body given the autonomy to run football in the country and are also entitled to periodic grants from the federal government. It also recognizes NFF as a sole body in charge of football administration, management and regulations in Nigeria in line with its status as approved by FIFA. Recognizes football as a national asset and thus entitled to special privileges, concessions and from time to time to receive grants, subvention and subvention and appropriation from government in furtherance to its objectives and functions and to facilitate the overall development of football in Nigeria, ensure its sustainable growth. Recognizing the NFF statute as drafted and approved by members as its Congress and ratified by FIFA as the supreme law for the governance of the functioning organization, administration and operations of the Federation. Recognizes that its NFF statute may be amended from time to time in accordance with the procedures and processes stipulated in the statutes. President of Nigeria Football Federation Amaju PNV Pinnick has described the real next level for Nigerian football development. The passage by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on Wednesday of the NFF bill, which automatically repealed the long-standing NFA Act. Pinnick said the NFF bill's passage is the biggest enabling environment for Nigerian football to thrive, provided by any government over decades, and applauded the President Muhammadu Buhari administration for consolidating on its numerous and credible moves that have provided lifeblood and impetus for Nigeria game. Wednesday passage by the Senate means the entire National Assembly has endorsed the document, the House of Representatives having earlier passed it, with only President Buhari's assent remaining for the bill to become law. Nigerian midfielder Michael Babatunde wants to end his impressive season with the CAF Champions League title with his Moroccan club, Wydad Casablanca. Wydad will face reigning champions Junior Locosa's Esperance in the first leg of the final later today, Friday, in Casablanca, and the 26-year-old forward wants a big win for Wydad in the first leg to stand a good chance of landing a third African title for the club. Wydad Casablanca have recorded only one win in their last 7 outings against Esperance. They drew the 3 games, lost 3, but Babatunde, who is on the cusp of joining the elite list of Nigerians who have won the lucrative CAF Champions League, says the final won't be all about revenge, but a game of wit. The Casablanca-based club has been champions on 2 occasions in 1992 and 2017. The second leg will take place on 31 May in Radiz near Tunis, where Wydad have nightmarish memories from previous trips when they failed to get good away results. Tottenham Hotspur striker Harry Kane has entered the final stages of recovery from an ankle injury, and manager Mauricio Pochettino is optimistic the striker will be fit enough to play in the Champions League final in Madrid. Kane is training and has entered the final stage of his recovery, the Argentine told reporters in Spain on Thursday. We are hoping he will be able to give us a hand, either from the start, from the bench, or if not, then by giving us moral support in the dressing room. But we are optimistic he will be able to help us on the pitch. Pochettino said his team had defied expectation by reaching the final, which he expects to be an emotionally charged affair. Pochettino is motivated to stay at Tottenham Hotspur so he can transform the London side into one of the best teams in the world. The manager said days after suggesting he could leave in the close season. The Argentine had hinted this month that the Champions League final against Liverpool could be his last at Spurs if the club, who did not sign a single player in successive transfer windows, was not ambitious enough to shake off the underdog tag. Ex-Arsenal boss Arsene Wenger says he's ready to take a new role in football, but has admitted for the first time a might not return to management. Wenger ended the 22-year Ghana reign after 2017-2018 season and previously stated he intended to take charge of a new club in early 2019. But the 69-year-old Frenchman said, "I thought I would come back into management very quickly, but I enjoyed taking a little distance. Now I'm at crossroads." Wenger was speaking at the launch of a new partnership with sports technology company, which he is joining as an investor and operating partner. The firm said Wenger will be taking an active role in business and product development of a device housed in a football booth that analyzes players' technical, tactical, and physical performance. And that's it from the sporting segment of Clearview Television News. I'm Ogutimehin Tolulopo Ogutimehin.
There it is. What a shot from Tiger. And the Jamaican juggernaut scores his first goal for a professional side.
And I was Tulu there with sports. Just before we conclude the bulletin, let's take a look at the stories that made headlines. Nigerians have hailed the Supreme Court judgment sacking all elected candidates of the ruling All Progressives Congress in the 2019 elections in Zamfara State, saying it's a lesson for politicians engaged in impunity and unconstitutionality. The House of Representatives has indicted 15 Nigerian banks for non-remittance of 1.5 billion naira stamp duties. And we also reported that as Brexit controversy rages on with no deal in sight, Prime Minister Theresa May has resigned, taking Britain back to the drawing board on their continued membership of the European Union. And that's the news. Remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel via Clearview TV, like us on Facebook at Clearview TV Online, follow us on Twitter at Clearview Online, as well as Instagram at Clearview TV_NG. You can also watch Clearview TV on Nigecomsat with any free-to-air decoder. For details, contact your local installer. I am Nten Epang. Many thanks for watching.